Welcome to Opus 23. It's hard to imagine that this is our 23rd event like the one we've had today. We start, yes. The very first Opus event was in the spring of 2000, and we hope that we'll continue until the spring of at least 2020 and maybe beyond. It's your donations that will help us continue, and the donations of folks like Green River Data Analysis. We've been very pleased with the work we've been able to do with them, and they support all of our online mentoring website work. So we're thrilled with Green River Data Analysis from the Putney-Brattleboro area. We also have grants from the Vermont Arts Council, support from the National Endowment for the Arts, and a number of businesses, and then most importantly, supporters like all of you, parents and friends who see the great worth in this program for young people. I'll introduce our brass instrumentalists, and you'll notice throughout the evening that we have a number of different performers. We'll try to make sure that we let you know who they are, but should we forget, they're in the program as well. So we're happy to welcome back all four of our brass players, and there is one more who will appear in another number. This is the second year that this ensemble has performed with us. We thank Chris Rivers, trumpet, Jason Whitcomb, also on trumpet, Wes Hopper, trombone, and Joby Wilson, tuba. And when she comes up, Joy Warland is our French horn performer. So they've been here actually since 9:30 this morning. They rehearsed a little bit before the students came. And the most important part of the day was that rehearsal that all the musicians had with the students. So anytime, we love to have you come and observe that learning environment as well. Tonight is our culminating activity. I have two student announcers for this evening. Oh, and I'm Sandy McLeod. I'm now Executive Director of the Vermont MIDI Project, and there's an incredible amount of information about the project online. So if you want to know more, and you want to know more about our new name that starts in January, please check out the website. Tonight I'm assisted by Ann Sutton and George Shaw, students from Burlington.
Ben Hunt, an 8th grader from Edmonds Middle School, opens the program with Fanfare of the Zombies. He tells us this piece is a very dark and minor feel. It is written for a brass quartet in an ABA form. The A part is all variations on the same melody. In the different lines of the piece, different instruments have the melody, but the notes stay the same. The B part has a triplet rhythm in the tuba and the second trumpet, and a slow melody in the first trumpet. When the piece comes back to the A sections, the part has been flip-flopped.
All right, so Ben, we're going to just play this piece. How's that?
Yep.
And then while you're sitting there, you listen to it and think of things that occur to you that you might want to tell us about your piece or something that maybe you want us to play differently. Okay. It's your piece. We'll play whatever you want. And we'll give you some suggestions. So stick right up on the side.
Really helpful because I don't play a brass instrument and I've never written for it before. So I got a lot of feedback on like a brass instrument's not made for this, a tuba can't play that. And that really helped because I don't know that stuff. So if you could just bring it maybe like down one dynamic mark.
Okay.
Like starting at mezzo forte instead of mezzo piano. And going up, I like the ending of you ending at fortissimo. Like just coming up more.
Okay.
So start a good bit less and
Yeah.
come up a good bit, but not quite so
Yeah.
much.
The main thing I noticed when you played the first time is that B, C, B, you need to play louder because you were softer there.
Okay. So what dynamic do you have in the score there?
Mezzo piano.
So, and we're in conversation with the tuba? Is
Yeah.
that what's happening at letter B?
Yeah.
And what is the tuba dynamic at B?
Mezzo piano.
So he's got the melody, and they're doing this little back and forth thing.
Yeah.
And you felt that the tuba was loud enough, but the trumpet wasn't in the back and
Yeah.
forth thing.
Yeah. It felt more like an echo there and I didn't want it to feel like that.
All right, so I think maybe I'll play a little bit louder than that's a piano.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a forte.
Yeah, that-
And then the next one's still a little louder than that, right?
Yeah.
And then the crescendo maybe would go to forte then.
Yeah. Being a composer, you sort of get the bigger picture of things because, like, I play in band, and I'll see the bass line, my part. But, like, when I compose, I see how all the parts go together, so it, like, helps me understand how my part goes together in band.
My piece changed a lot from my first posting, and it really would not be the same if I didn't have so many helpful comments from my mentors. One specific comment that really helped me was that they suggested, I had my players playing in unison a lot, and they said that that's really disorienting for an audience when players play in unison during a piece, so that was really helpful, and I ended up changing my piece a lot because of that.
We really like this duet.
Yes, we do.
What instrument do you play?
I play violin and clarinet.
Play violin and That's great. You picked a nice key for trumpets. You know, sometimes on clarinet there's just certain keys that feel good,
Yeah.
scales and songs that feel good in a certain key, or on violins. This is a good key for trumpets.
It's really great because it does sound a lot different when it's played live. And it makes you think about different things, and because balances are different, and it's really just a completely different experience hearing your piece played live.
And the tempo at B is just whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay.
But if you want to slow it down even more, it's
Was the beginning okay?
yeah, the beginning.
Dee, da, da, da.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Um,
It's nice because actually, you know, just staying in the same tempo, the way you change, it makes it sound faster than it already is. I mean, it's faster. It just sounds faster, even if you just stay in the same tempo. So.
You wrote some really nice opportunities for musical conversations, you know, which is really what a duet
yeah,
is.
yeah. I wrote it that way because whenever I hate playing duets where one player has so much more to do than another player. So I wanted to.
Just like the
It's way more fun when you get to have a conversation back and forth.
Yeah.
And by doing that also, you did something really important, which was to give momentary spots where we can grab a quick breath.
Yeah.
You know, something that's different than flute playing, trumpet players and brass players we need to get the mouthpiece off of our lips, even if it's for only a second, because we need to get blood flowing again, and that constant pressure will, can wear you out, and then your music won't sound as good. But there's just enough spots,
Yeah.
I don't take a lot of music theory, so that's one thing that's hard for me, and I really can now appreciate more like all the different harmonies composers choose to write with, because there's so many options, and it's hard for me to really write complicated harmonies well, so it makes overall composing has made me appreciate music more.
Duet for Trumpets was written by Ann Sutton, a 10th grader from Burlington High School. Ann writes, "I don't play a brass instrument, so I thought it would be fun and interesting to play a duet for instruments I knew little about. Throughout the piece, the melody alternates between the two trumpets because I believe that pieces are much more exciting to play and to listen to if both parts are relatively equal."
Ethan Foster and Robin McOwen co-wrote Summer Fanfare. They are 6th graders of the Grammar School in Putney. The pair described their piece. This piece is a duet for trombone and trumpet. We chose the key of C major because we wanted it to be a happy, energetic piece. We liked the marching band feel with the trumpet and trombone. We opened with a 4-measure motif played as a solo by the trumpet and then in harmony with the trombone.
Molly During also attends the grammar school where she is a 6th grader. Molly tells us about chasing squirrels. "I wanted this song to be happy and kind of lively for trumpet, French horn, and xylophone in C major. I named it Chasing Squirrels because the xylophone seems to be the squirrels chasing each other to get food. I made it faster to sound more like the squirrels. I thought about the squirrels I see at the end of my road. There are 3 of them and they always seem to be chasing each other."
Fairy Tale was co-written by Tyler Silby and Luke Querden, 6th graders at the grammar school in Putney. They tell us about their work. Fairy Tale is a playful piece for glockenspiel and xylophone. We named it Fairy Tale because it's one of our favorite manga book series. It's also called Fairy Tale because we think the music tells a story. We were interested in percussion because we're both percussionists, and we explored drums and other brass instruments, then decided that we liked glockenspiel and xylophone the best.
Do you think the trumpets could go down to mezzo forte?
Got it, Mark? Yeah, we sort of naturally in rehearsal kind of pulled back on that because it was clear that we weren't the part that needed to come out there. So the more dynamics would help. We may still interpret and change some things based on what we hear, and that's what part of the fun of being a performer is being able to take liberties with things. But the more that you can indicate as a composer, we're more likely to sort of have an idea of what you want.
What instrument do you play?
Horn.
You play horn? So you realize it takes like twice as much air to play
Yeah.
the tuba, and you know how important air is. So knows that you need to write some rests in there. I mean, that whole area basically from 30 through 42 or something like that. I mean, there's not even any rest big enough for a horn player to probably get through that. You know what I mean? But my part's so busy, it looks to me like I'm the most important part through all of that. Is that the case?
No.
Okay, so how can you find a way to bring out what is more important?
Each of these. So, the first one, yeah.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that is actually a nice thing to do because it means you can always put your one finger on that.
Yeah.
But it's easy to just do. So you can just do that, right? So then when you come to this part, twos. You want to do twos there?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to do threes. So at the beginning, you like that too?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll just put some accents in there. And pedal. So you should write, because you like the pedal, right?
Yeah.
A lot of pedal?
Not
too much
yeah,
pedal.
I want it to be just kind of there, because actually this was inspired by when my friends went to Niagara Falls and he brought back pictures.
Oh.
And yeah.
Then, so it's inspired by Niagara Falls.
Yeah, and that's why I thought my teacher had the comment that he'd seen it in the winter when all the mist had frozen, and that's what inspired that part.
Wow, okay, so this is a frozen Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
All right. It's not bad if you write that stuff in, by the way.
Yeah,
if you know, because it helps the performer figure out what the composer wanted. Not so much.
Yeah, more like
Okay.
flowing.
So flowing. Okay, so why don't you, do you have a pencil? You should write flowing. because that was another thought I had, was that I didn't have much in the way of clues as to what the character was.
Yeah,
So-
and it's supposed to get louder, like the higher it goes, too. And then,
In this,
So Robin McLaughlin wrote a vocal piece called Winter's Path. She is a senior at Essex High School. Winter's Path started out as a chord progression and later grew into a full-fledged choral piece for mixed voices. The tonality centers around D major, but occasionally dips into A major. Notable are the driving sextuplets in the piano part, which seek to convey a blustery, stormy feel. The lyrics use the imagery of the seasons to describe a situation where life feels somber and wintry, but expresses how, like winter, life will inevitably turn better.
Summer's past, mere memories of the sun. The trees turn cold and frost fought and won. A silence longer than night is breaking through the air, breaking into ever-broken stream. Once growing green, trees are growing here, till at last I am left alone with winter's frozen dream. The birds have not sung for the longest while, and I have felt lost within seeing your smile. But remember, the sun will be back in the morning, and winter cannot overcome the beauty of morning's and I will walk
Sebastian Gleesh is an 8th grader at Edmonds Middle School. He writes, "The Graceful Monkey Dance is a song written for brass quintet and 2 percussionists. This piece is based around several varying melodies. At first, the piece starts out fast and intense with complicated rhythmic patterns. Soon after, the tempo changes. The piece transitions from a fast-paced introduction to a slower part. The third section speeds up as the snare drum plays differing rhythms. It slows down for a satisfying ending."
Colchester High School junior Jacob Morin Black wrote Opus 23 Brass Quintet, a piece that begins in a classic Renaissance style. Moving on, the piece begins to become more complicated, changing key and introducing faster rhythms. At the pinnacle of the piece, the key changes and the theme feels more minor, yet still retaining a certain major aspect. The piece ends by returning to the beginning theme and ending with a satisfying choral section.
My mentor, Eric Nielsen, very much helped out with just helping me take the ideas I had in my head and getting them onto paper so that the performers could interpret what I was asking them to do, I suppose. I've never written for wind instruments before, so his input into putting rests in places so that the performers could breathe and just generally some of the techniques composers used in order to write for brass and other wind instruments. It could be a tad slower, but the faster tempo still works, I think.
You prefer it slow?
A little bit slower, yes.
We can do that.
And just with the very end, I was thinking the second chord and the second to last measure could be a bit softer, so it's a progression rather than the last measure is just all of a sudden piano.
So rather than suddenly soft, sort of a little...
So a decrescendo.
Basically
Yes.
a decrescendo.
I don't know, it motivates me a bit, and I guess it just makes music in general more enjoyable, just having groups to write for and stuff like that.
Jackson McCord is a junior at Guilford High School in Connecticut. Fantasia for brass quintet is slow, and at times march-like piece for two trumpets, trombone, and tuba. The piece starts with a vertically structured introduction, which quickly leads into the first main theme. This theme is started twice before the piece modulates into a dominant, where it quickly modulates once again into a relative minor of the dominant. From here, the piece transitions into a short double fugue based on the first major theme. The piece then leads into a sequential section based off the rising and falling of tones from triads. The sequence builds until dual suspensions are played by the trombone and first trumpet. This then leads into the final cadence.
A trio of 8th grade composers from Edmonds Middle School wrote Pux FLAVILION. The composers are George Shaw, Henry Severance, and William Sutton. The piece starts off with a light, bouncy melody in the beginning, which leads into a quick pace and repetitive melody that continues through the A section. The B section features a sequence of notes that move up and down the scale in a pattern of thirds and eventually leads back into the melody. The final bar moves into a minor key and ends with a sorrowful chord.
Nicole Kish, a junior from Hazen Union High School, composed In the Shadow. She tells us, from prior experience, I never liked how the first instrument would usually get the melody while the second instrument got the harmony. I decided to make it fair and have the trumpets switch. That way they can both play the melody while those listening can hear a reprise of the melody with a different harmony. I feel the story of the piece is that there are two trumpets trying to best each other, but end up just finding that no matter who has the melody, they still sound great together.
The first thing I want to do is just show you the range that it can play. It has a very large range.
Doubles have more range.
Yes. And this is a double. Do you have a single probably?
Yes, I have a single.
Yeah, a double is just, it has two sets of slides here and it has a thumb valve, so it makes it easier to hit the higher notes. You can hit the same notes on the single horn. It's just more difficult, yeah. And the very lowest notes are harder on that too. So
I hope that you all are taking advantage of what for me is the most loaded learning opportunity available here at Opus, and that is to sit close by while other people's work is being rehearsed. It is the best way to learn about interacting with performers and about the things that you need to do to have your music come alive for them so then they can perform it in a way that is exciting for you to listen to and also for the audience to listen to.
Yeah.
Any
So as we go on today, we're going to be talking about the ways that you can start a piece, the kind of inspiration that can lead to a piece of music, and having an ensemble to write for, or to have a group of musicians that you know might be able to play what you're writing, is a great source of inspiration.
What were you hearing? I mean, were you hearing this as, because what you've got are these sort of chromatic chords at the beginning, keep switching back and forth. Was that something that you were hearing first? I mean, that's obviously the first idea there.
A lot of the things I do hear in my head first, and I try and write it down as much as I can, and then really take that idea some further.
Okay.
And as you can see, there's the 2/4 and the largo. There's kind of another idea there, and then it goes back and forth. So.
We'll call this tuba a double tuba or a triple tuba?
So it'd actually be like a quadruple tuba because it's got so many. This is actually an F tuba, which is known as a bass tuba.
So how do you hold it?
Very carefully.
Wait, could you show me where all your fingers go?
On the valves.
How do you hold it like in your hands?
Like that.
Wow.
So that T thing that adjusts pitch too?
Yeah, it's just that's my first valve slide, and it just adjusts, fine tunes.
So you have.
All right, now I got all these I can play with. And mine's got an extra fifth valve, so I can go. And at that point, I popped it in.
Dylan Ruza is a 6th grader at Barnett School. He describes his piano piece. Waterfall is a piece I wrote to evoke the sound of a waterfall. The first part is kind of like water tumbling over a waterfall, creating a rhythmic drumming sound. In the second part, I try to create the same image, but slightly differently. The third part is my attempt to recreate the feeling you get when you are standing near a really big waterfall in the middle of winter and the sun is shining through the frozen spray on the trees. I used the pedal to replicate what it might sound like if you turned icicles into a set of chimes.
Ethan Mosdale attends Barnett School where he is a 6th grader. He describes his piece, A Piano Sonata. This piece started in C major, but then I chose to go to minor. I wanted to do some things I saw in Bartók's Microcosmos, so I switched to 6 flats. This piece is intended for Opus 23. It is a work in progress.
Burlington High School junior Giovanni Tabor describes Piano 24. This piece is a piano song I've been working on. This is one of the first piano solos I've written since I was in 6th grade. The song is supposed to be kind of dark, but I have some contrasting moments. It is mostly in the F clef, but there is a treble part that comes throughout the song. The song is in A minor with a time signature of 6/8, but briefly enters 8/8 time at the end of some phrases.
was incredible, hearing it being played by professional musicians, because it's not often you get a chance to have 5 people with such skill playing a piece you compose.
So we don't, I mean, you created some very interesting textures, but it doesn't have to be that full texture the whole time. It's very easy to continue in that same idea without, compromising that in any way, but giving us each a chance. And plus, it changes it up a little bit, where you, just by me not playing those 2 bars, 2 other parts are going to be heard a little bit more because I'm not there. And that's an interesting thing to think about when you're writing music. Even though it's for 5 players, they don't all have to play all the time, right? You can have little conversations between each part.
Composing for other instruments that you don't play or that you're not used to, like working with like musicians like that, it was definitely helpful. Certain like ways they have to breathe and stuff, and I've never had to deal with a thing like that being a guitarist or percussionist.
And it was right in here because I had been playing, from there without a break, sort of in the middle to upper register, continuing on at that slow tempo. I still haven't gotten the mouthpiece off my chops. And so I got there, and these 2 notes I took off, knowing that coming back, this was the main chord. That was the D minor chord right there. So I just took these 2 notes off and then came back in here. And it actually kind of sounded nice.
Yeah.
And plus I got to get a little blood flowing in my face.
And the other thing is you can like trade it off between us, if we're on the same note or something like that. Even just like having the tuba drop out for 1 measure and come back in creates him happy. And, and it just creates a whole different sound. So.
I'm really excited. It's a lot of fun working with the musicians. Everybody I met is really nice, and I look forward to the rest of the day.
Justice Gaston wrote Delorma. He's a senior from Meadowsburg Falls Middle High School and tells us, I never really had an idea for what I wanted my piece to sound like before I started composing. As the piece evolved, I found that it had several different themes being laid back at times, and more driving in other sections.
Working with live musicians on a piece that you've heard before on computer playback is like watching a movie on a home television, comparing that to a big movie theater. Everything is bigger and more immersive, and there are more tiny little details in the pixels just to show that it has more work into it, more quality, and it just feels a lot more like you can experience it as opposed to watching it through a little window. Writing music has a lot of differing effects on playing an instrument. Like, for example, when I play a trumpet and I'm just going through a piece for the first time, I look at the notes and play what's written and listen a little bit to the big picture, but looking at something from a compositional standpoint is much different in that you can see the relationship between the notes, which note is the fifth, third, and root, which note is the most important, supposed to be the loudest, as opposed to if you're just handed a sheet of music, you're told a certain dynamic, not what it's relative to with the other instruments.
David Morgan is a senior at Harwood Union High School. David describes his work. The title Verdant Gales refers to a storm that occurred this spring. Heavy winds and rain shook vast quantities of pollen and other green particles and whirled them through the air, creating strange green gusts in the open air. This piece was inspired by that storm and its changing patterns of color.
And one more round of applause for a tremendous We have certificates for all students who submitted for Opus 23, selected or not in this evening's performance. Please join us and with your teacher here on stage. Thanks to Mike Close, one of our composer mentors sitting out in the audience, and to Eric Nielsen, another composer mentor who's here. And Eric has a couple of words tonight.
I'm sorry, it's going to be more than a couple, but as you can probably see, I'm wearing a lot of hats tonight, although they're all invisible. I'm not only the senior mentor with the program and got drafted to be a performer for this evening's program, but I'm also vice president of the board, and I think it tells you something about how much I believe in the Vermont MIDI project, that I'm really a confirmed Luddite. I really am not a big fan of technology, and yet this is the most fantastic program that I've ever been associated with. And I think you can hear from the quality of the pieces tonight that this is just a sampling of what has been going on for the last, 15 years now? 16 now. And the thing that you have to keep in mind is this is one of only 3 such programs in the world. There's another one in Finland, and there's another one, I always get it mixed up, it's either in Australia or New Zealand. And guess which is the only one of those 3 that is not state supported? If you want a program that is this important to young people's development, and what I say to people is, in some ways it doesn't matter whether they go on to become professional composers or not. Most of them won't. But what does matter is the amount of personal development that they gain from writing music through this program. It teaches them so much, not just about themselves, but about what they are capable of as human beings. And there's nothing that teaches that better than the creative arts. And so, if you believe, as I do in this program, then you have to believe that it's worthy of support. So, please support it. Your children and all the children who come after your children will thank you for it.
The certificates for Barnett Schools, Sue Pearson, instructor.
Dalen Rosa. And Ethan Mosley.
Hazen Union School, Stephen Light.
Nicole Kish.
Burlington High School, Ed Owens.
Giovanni Tabor. Ann Sutton.
Edmonds Middle School, Betsy Nolan.
Thank you, thank you. Ben Hunt. Bastion Leash. Wilhelm Sutton. Henry Severance. George Shaw. And Oscar Falcon.
Enosburg, let's see, Enosburg Falls Middle High School, right? Rachel Sherman.
Justice Gaston, who's in 12th grade and not 7th.
I have a number of independent study group and students whose teachers were unable to be here or had some sort of Colchester, Jacob Morton Blau. From Essex High School, let's see, Robin McLaughlin.
All the way from Connecticut, Jackson Maycor.
But he's done his duty tonight already as a trumpet. So, David Morgan. And all the way from Putney, Vermont at the Grammar School, Allie Lubin.
Congratulations to Molly Durling. Luke Carey. Tyler Silby. Robin McGowan. Ethan Foster.
Thank you all. Hope to see you again at an Opus event.